Hello everybody, I've got the Nacon Revolution X controller in front of me. This is advertised as competition grade wire controller and it includes Dolby Atmos, which is awesome. This guy works on the Xbox Series console, Xbox One, and then Windows 10. I'm pretty sure it'll work for Windows 11 as well. And it comes with this really nice looking case. Check this out. Green and black, Xbox theme. And here's the controller itself. As soon as you pick it up, you'll notice that this controller is pretty light. It's pretty hollow inside actually. Plus the plastic itself doesn't feel premium at all. That combined with this funky looking half texture and half smooth style makes this controller look and feel kind of cheap. However, as soon as you start using it, you'll notice that this is actually a really high quality controller. It doesn't flex at all, it doesn't creak. It really is solid. And there's a lot of customization that you can do with this controller as well. It comes with this little container here, and if you open it up, you see that there are additional weights that you can put in the controller. If you prefer convex thumbstick caps, here they are. And this is kind of unique. This guy controls the range of motion for your thumbsticks. We got all the different weights here. On the back of the controller, you're going to see 4 additional back paddles. And we also have the 2 compartments here that we can slide open. This is where you put the weights in to make the controller feel heavier. You know what? It doesn't really make the controller feel that much heavier. Either that or I'm super strong, I don't know. So I installed this one and it still feels really light. Out of the box, the controller comes with the concave stick caps. You can take these off. Here they are. And you can switch them out with these. But before we do that, let's talk about these guys. So what these guys do is they limit the range of motions. So for example, if you don't want a lot of range of motion, you use these thick ones right here, these thick rings. You can also use the little thinner ones. So you just put them on your sticks like this. And because the joystick is thicker now, you can have less range of motion. Versus not having anything at all, you're gonna have a longer range of motion. Oh wow. Yeah, these things don't move a lot anymore. These rings will be really good for fighting games if you use the sticks to do circular motions. It's going to be a lot quicker. I'm really not a fan of these rounded stick caps. They're so smooth and you don't really get any grips. Like they kind of slide all over the place. Especially when you go down, it just slides right off. You see that? If you pull, it's really no resistance, nothing to hang on to. But pushing up on these sticks are pretty good. The concave designs are a lot better in my opinion because when you pull down, you see how there's a lip here that you can hold on to. Then you can hold the sticks in this position without it slipping off, right? I would have loved to have some textures around the caps here. They don't exist on this controller, unfortunately. In terms of pressure, these are pretty loose. I say they are more akin to the Xbox controllers. The face buttons on here are really nice and big and they're close together. It makes it really easy for you to press 2 buttons at the same time. So this is awesome for fighting games. And they're really clicky and responsive. It's very satisfying. When compared to the DualSense, you can see the buttons are a lot closer together. You see that? Although this controller doesn't seem very big, it is actually really good for people with big hands or with long fingers like mine. And the reason being is the handle is really long and the triggers kind of stick outwards. Here, it fits my fingers perfectly. You see that? And this is an Xbox controller. You see how much more room I have? Check this out. Compared to this guy, my finger rests on the triggers perfectly. On the flip side, if you have short, stubby fingers, you may have a hard time reaching these things. Yeah, and they feel really nice too. Not bad, not bad. The shoulders are nice and clicky. You can press them from both sides. The problem I have with these actually is they are too flat. Check out the Xbox controller shoulder buttons. You see how it kind of protrudes out to give you more room to press the button. Whereas this guy is very flush to the body of the controller, so it's harder for you to press the button. On this guy, I can use the tip of my finger to press the button or the inside of my knuckles and it'll work. But on this controller, I can't use the inside of my knuckles. The only way for me to press this button is at the tip. You get used to it though over time, but I do hope that the next iteration of this, they raise this out a little bit more. The handles are all texture all the way from here and around. It's quite nice actually, I like them a lot. And on the back, you get a profile button. You have 4 profiles to choose from, I believe. And then over here, there's a switch. This is classic and advanced. In order for you to use these buttons, you've got to switch this from classic to advanced. You've got 2 upper buttons here, and then 2 on the sides on the handle. These 2 buttons are probably the best back buttons I've ever used. They are so quick and so responsive. So this is how you normally hold your controller, and because of this position, you see how easy it is for me to press them? This is awesome. I wish more Pro controllers had this kind of design. This is just great. Look at that. Just so easy for me to do the Korean backdash. Look how fast that is. This is the best on any controller. But unfortunately, the same cannot be said about these lower buttons. These are really difficult to press. And I think the purpose of that is so that you don't accidentally hit them. You're gonna use your middle fingers to press these upper back buttons. But the ones on the handles, you're gonna use your ring fingers. And it's very awkward to press. I find it easier if you just switch and bring the middle fingers down. That makes it a lot easier to press. Your middle fingers are just naturally stronger, you know what I mean? Very difficult to do. Alright, let's get to the D-pad. Now, right off the bat, this D-pad is very unique looking. You see how it kind of angled inward, right? It's a really cool looking design, I have to say. And I don't think I've ever seen this design on any other controller. Overall, the D-pad controls well. It's responsive, although I feel like they're not as responsive as the face buttons. For whatever reason, it's weird. It just doesn't feel as clicky. You can really hear the face button, but not so much the D-pad. I'm not sure if they're using a different switch here. In terms of the size of the D-pad, this is the perfect size. This is not too big and not too small. Because the directions are angled inward like this, you're gonna lose some feel for each of the directions because there's less buttons as you go outward. So it just feels short. And this makes the gap here larger, right, in between each of the directions. But despite that, the diagonals are really good on this D-pad. I have no problem at all. But by far, the best thing about this D-pad is the surface that they use, the material on the D-pad itself. Look how smooth it is. Look at how my finger just glide around effortlessly. What this means is circular motion is going to be super easy to do. As great as the surface is, unfortunately there is a flaw that's equally as bad. And that is this little edge right here around the D-pad. Why is this so bad? Okay, let me tell you. When I try to do double tap back really quickly, my thumb will hit the edge of this little raised platform instead of the button going down all the way. So I would miss inputs because of this ledge. I don't have a problem with forward, down, or up, just back. And I understand why it's there. It just makes it look cooler. It just makes it look more symmetrical. Without this raised platform, it will look weird. But I'm more about functionality over form, right? I don't care if it looks weird. If it works great, I'm all about it. With that being said though, you can get used to it. So when you press down, just make sure that your thumb is raised up, right? That way you don't hit this little ledge right here. Or you can use this inner part of your thumb right here to go back, right? I know, you gotta do some finger gymnastics with this guy. Overall, this is an awesome D-pad, just with one really big flaw. There are two ways to program these back buttons. You can use the profile button back here to do it, or you can download the Revolution X app on the Microsoft Store on Windows or on Xbox. You get 4 profiles to choose from, and you can edit it. You can change it to whatever you want. You can remap all of the buttons as well. You can control the dead zone. If you don't like dead zones, you can set it to 0. You can reverse the axis, and you can change the sensitivity as well. And you can adjust the sensitivities for the trigger as well. I do wish that you can lock these triggers and make it just like a button. This controller doesn't have that. The trigger is what it is. You can adjust the EQ for your Dolby audio here. And check this out. These guys actually have RGB effects. It's cool at first, but after a while it gets annoying and distracting. I usually just turn it off. And on the right hand side here, you can invert the left and right sticks. Now I've never seen this before. Under D-pad, you can have it 8-way or 4-way. And it's exactly what you think it is. When you do 4-way, you don't get diagonals. I guess this is great for like retro games. This is where you can also update the firmware of the controller. In terms of the input delay and polling rate test, this is one of the faster controllers that I've tested. At minimum is less than a millisecond, maximum about 11. On average, I'm getting about 4 milliseconds here, and the polling rate is on the higher end at 244. This is just behind the DualSense and the Reflex Pro. It's also a little bit behind the 8-bit Duo Ultimate and the Pro 2 for the Xbox. But to be honest with you, the difference between the fastest controllers here are minuscule. You're not going to notice the difference. This guy is fast. Taking everything into account, I would say this controller is pretty good for fighting game. Not very good, pretty good. One of the main reasons, these face buttons, man, these face buttons are awesome. I just love them. And although this ledge is a pretty big issue, you can get used to it over time. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. And I really dig the surface of this D-pad. It's just so smooth. And I also love the fact that you can adjust the range of motions on the joysticks. This is just cool. I think all controllers should have this. Despite how it looks and feels initially, this controller has a lot going on for it. If you're willing to be patient with a controller, this may not be a bad option for you. Alright, that's going to be it for me. Hopefully you found the video to be helpful. If you did, give the video a like, subscribe for more, and take care now.